I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to walk you through the Kansas Small Business Development Center business plan template. From an overview, what's a business plan? Why do you need it? Main thing for a business plan is to get your ideas about your business written down on paper. It can benefit you a couple of different ways. One, by writing it down, it kind of forces you to look at your business in a different way. You might have things or some gaps that you have, some items that you might need to mitigate or put in place to help you be more successful. One of the biggest reasons that folks have to do a written business plan is when they try to raise money. So whether that's a individual investor or a bank, traditionally with a bank, you're going to have a business plan. So you want to be able to put your thoughts down on paper, because when that loan officer takes your application in to talk about it, you're not going to be with them. And the only thing that's going to be with that loan officer representing you is this business plan. So you want to get your thoughts down on paper, and you want to get it down in a way that's as powerful as possible so that you have the best chance of getting your financing. Also, having a written plan, typically when you go back and look at businesses that have started, ones who put their thoughts down on paper and wrote it down are about 4 times as likely to be successful than ones who don't. And a lot of that is just the reasons of you're forced to put things down. So you're more likely to see some errors in your thinking or some things that you haven't thought about yet that could help you. So to jump into what the actual business plan looks like, this business plan is a streamlined business plan. It's 5 pages. About 10 years ago, business plans were about 20 pages. They had sections in it where you had to repeat yourself over and over, and you had to write a lot of things down. About 5 years ago, the standard kind of got more toward a 10-page business plan. And then now we're about 5 pages. And the reason for that is your loan officers have gotten sort of ADHD over the years, and you're just not going to be able to hold people's attention for much longer than about 5 pages. If you have too much stuff in there, the danger is that your really powerful points that you really want to speak for your business when you go in for that, when that loan review officer takes your business plan and your financials in, to have it cluttered with a lot of other stuff could prevent the most powerful points that you would typically make in person. They may get lost, and that loan officer might not remember exactly how you said it or what you were saying. But if you have this written down, it's kind of like a cheat sheet. And so if it's a 5-page streamlined cheat sheet for them, when they go in, if people have questions about the loan application, your loan officer will be able to look at this really quickly and be able to answer those questions, which is much better than them having to leave a message for you, and all of a sudden you're delayed a week or so because they had some questions pop up and they didn't approve your loan yet because they needed you to answer the questions. If you have your business plan written in a powerful enough way, most of those questions will be answered inside of your business plan, in addition to your financial projections that you'll do. Business plan and financial projections kind of work hand in hand. Some business plans will go into a lot of additional detail that are meant for kind of bridges into operating plans, processes, things like that. This isn't what this is. This is a business plan for external eyes and for lenders and things like that. This isn't a full-blown marketing and sales plan. This isn't a full-blown operating plan. This is a business plan for external eyes to get a good grasp of what you're trying to tell them in a quick and succinct enough way that they can understand what you're trying to tell them. And so we start off, the first page of this 5 pages is really just your title page. So you're saying, hey, it's a business plan for, you put your name of your business. So just type in the name of your business right here. You're going to go back and forth on this. So you're going to have different versions. So the easiest way to keep these straight is have this last updated date here. So just put in the month, day, and the year. This will help you long term, because As soon as you start having multiple versions around, you could very easily accidentally send the wrong version to your lender or whoever else, and then all of a sudden it's not the powerful version that you thought it was. So by using this right here, keep that updated with the latest day. That will help you out so that you can make sense of which version was which. Contact info, put your name, your address, your phone number, your email. You never know. You might submit this to the loan officer. This gets separated from your application. They're not for sure who it belongs to. And so have all this stuff here. Put your email for contact also. If you have a website and you're proud of it, put your website down too. Anything like that that can show that you're concrete, and then kind of find where you're at. One of the things on this very first page to do is put an elevator pitch executive summary. And what we're looking for here is really just a quick overview of what you're trying to do with your business. And so most people have watched Shark Tank, things like that. What we're really looking for is 20 to 30 seconds, kind of one paragraph that says what your idea or your business will do. So what are you actually doing? A lot of people won't know what you're doing, so you need to tell them. Then the other big point is, how does your idea or your business benefit a customer? So why are they going to buy yours versus competitor offerings? So you can capture the imagination with your reason here. It could be pricing, it could be speed of delivery, it could be whatever. But just put something down as to why you think somebody needs to have your business to buy from. Then sort of just as a quick overview, if you've been in business, if you're an existing business, put how long you've been in business. That'll help you get some credibility that you've been in business for a while. If you're not yet in business, then put when your projected opening date is. You don't have to have the exact day, but if you could loosely kind of target a month and a year, that'll help. That way people kind of understand what kind of timeline you're on. If you are an existing business, put down what your recent sales trend has been the last 3 years. The bank's going to ask for it anyway, so go ahead and just put it up front. If it's bad news, figure out how to mitigate that and why is going to mitigate that. But they're going to see it anyway, so go ahead and just be upfront. If it's good news, take credit for it. Put the good news in there. If you do need financing, state the amount that you need and where the source is going to be. So if half of it's going to be from a private investor and half of it's going to be from a bank loan, put in there. Looking to raise this amount of money, half of it's going to be through a private investor and the other half is going to be through a bank. If you have a really noteworthy sort of unique advantage of your idea or your business, make sure you figure out a way to kind of squeeze that in. If you won an award for the business, if you're a restaurant, you won kind of some kind of an award, or if you were a past winner of an award in that industry, put that down. Or if you have an all-star on your team or on your advisory board, somebody that is a well-known name in your community that your banker would know, something like that, put that down. That will give you additional credibility. And if it's a coin flip on whether or not somebody's going to loan to you, something like that could be enough to go ahead and tilt it into your favor. Also, if you already have a big customer on board, or you're going to partner with a big distributor or something like that, somebody that has a lot of credibility in the space, that's once again a known name, slide that in there. That's important. That'll get people to highlight you immediately, because you're kind of getting that first impression of your business right here. And you don't want to trail on. You don't want a whole long page. You want just this amount right here. So then we go into page 2. Page 2 is the very first part is industry snapshot. So no matter what industry you're in, folks kind of want to know a little bit about the industry. If it's a well-known industry, people are going to be, they'll probably kind of, they'll probably blaze through this kind of fast because they'll feel like they already kind of know that. But if you've got a loan officer that doesn't know that industry, or if you're in an industry that a lot of people don't know about, this right here helps them feel more comfortable that they understand exactly what you're trying to do with your business. So the notation up there underneath that industry snapshot, we at the Kansas SBDC, we can help you fill out this. We have access to industry reports that are very, very good, that provide all this information. And if you contact us, and the contact information is at the bottom of this template. If you call our 800 number, chat, send an email, we can pull your specific industry. We'll pull together, typically these reports are about 30 to 40 pages long. But what we'll do is we'll also do a 2-page summary that has all these points in it. We'll set up a time and walk you through, takes about 30, 45 minutes. We'll walk you through the big report so you can get an understanding of some of the industry research that's out there. Some of these reports are $500, $5,000 to $5,000 type deals, so they're a lot of value. So you get that for free. So you take advantage of that and utilize that service. It might just be enough where you see a little tidbit of information or a tip or something that people think in your industry is going to be something that you can leverage in the future. By taking that 45 minutes out now and looking at that, it could make a huge difference in how successful you are. So strongly encourage you to do that. Plus, it'll help you have all this information that you need for this industry snapshot. And once again, that'll help your lenders feel more comfortable that, one, they see the information, but two, they know that you have seen the information. And that's almost as important, is they see that you've put this down so it looks like you've done your homework. Next section is regulatory. So regulatory, is there any special regulations or permits or licenses required? And if they are, where are you at in that process? So if you're doing something that's hazardous, what do you have to do? If there's not any of those kind of things that are required, just put none required. Once again, leave it in there, but just put none required. By putting none required in there, it'll help that loan officer go, okay, that's fine. And if there are some required and you list out that, hey, I've gotten 3 out of the 4, the other one's going to be like if you're doing a bar and grill or something, or a restaurant, and you're like, hey, my liquor license is going to be in next month. That just helps them know where you're at in the stage. Once again, that way, if somebody asks the question during the loan review meeting, something like that, they have the answer right there, and they don't have to boot it back out, ask you, and then go back into the loan review later. All it's going to do is, by doing it this way, it's going to help you get to that loan review process that much quicker. Next section may or may not apply to you. It's intellectual property snapshot. So patents, trademarks, copyrights, those kind of things. If you've got a new product or something like that and you've got a patent on it, or you're going to get a patent on it, then write that down. If you already got the patent, you can write that down. Once again, it might be something that tilts in your favor, where they're like, oh, that's a really good idea, and they've got a patent, so that potentially is marketable. So if it's a 50-50 coin flip, that might tilt you over to being loanable again. If you have any issues around it where you're using some IP that you might get sued for, or you're being sued for, you're going to need to kind of disclose it. So it goes the other way too. But if you have any questions about patent, trademark, copyright, the U.S. Patent and Trade Office website, the USPTO website, is very, very helpful with that. We've also got some videos in our tech commercialization area on intellectual property, so you can check out some of our past webinars on that, and our tech commercialization tab on our website, on the KansasSBDC.net website. Next section is legal business structure. So legal business structure, so it could be as simple as sole proprietorship. So you're one person, you're doing business as whatever, and it's just like your own personal self. A lot of times folks will grab the LLC, the limited liability, and what that does is that provides a shield from your personal assets, in case something goes wrong in your business and you're sued in your business side. So folks with some assets will definitely be kind of interested in that. There is a link on the business plan template where you found this video. There is a link out to the SBA that does a good job of describing these different types of structures. So if you're not for sure, you can consult an attorney, and you can also look at that link that takes you over to the SBA website and describes the different pros and cons of these different structures. So just list that out. And once again, it just gives additional information about your business, so it's all captured in one spot. The next section is real important, competitive environment. So for a competitive environment, really what you're wanting to highlight here is who's your main competitors. So whether you're selling locally and it's only to people that live in the town, or you're selling regionally, or you're selling across the state or multi-state or across the whole country or globally, think about where the majority of your sales are going to be coming from, and think about the competitors that you'll be facing in that area that the majority of your sales will be coming from. List those competitors out. It might be national competitors and local competitors, but list them out. Also, when you list them out, list out a strength or a weakness, strength and weakness of each of those competitors versus your idea, product, or your service for your business. And be honest with yourself. This is a part where if you look at it and you're like, boy, I'm weak everywhere. Well, try to figure out, is there a gap? Is there an opportunity somewhere? It's better to identify it now and figure out if you can overcome it versus after you've already spent your life savings just to find that out and close up shop 6 months later. So if you need help with that, contact, once again, do the contact at the sheet here. The 800 number is 800-949-7661, or the KansasSBDC.net website, just right there on the bottom. Contact, we can get you in contact with your local SBDC experts that can really kind of help highlight some additional competitive forces that are going on, and maybe strategize with you from a marketing plan perspective as to opportunities that you could do to overcome those competitors. Another important part on the competitive environment side is looking at those same competitors. Let's check on your price. So pricing is important. There's other things that are just equally important, but price is a big one. So you want to address that one right off the bat. So where are you going to be generally with your prices? If you're plus or minus 10%, that's basically about the same. So you can just put basically the same. If you're going to be less expensive and it's more than 10% type deal, put that down there that, hey, my strategy is I'm going to be a discounter, or I'm going to be cheaper than the market because maybe you are in a lower wage area for that particular technology, and so you have an inherent price advantage. You just, you never know. So put that down. If you're going to be more expensive, put more expensive, and then highlight why you're going to be able to get by with being more expensive. Maybe you are more expensive, but you do emergency services, plumbers, HVAC guys, auto mechanics, things like that. Those folks, they can put in a premium price, and if they do after hours and emergency services, they absolutely can get by with charging that. Veterinarians that are doing emergency deals, you can absolutely get by with charging premium to your competitors if you have a business model that supports that. So if people are in an emergency, they're typically going to be willing to pay more. And so folks who do sort of emergency after hours calls, middle of the night, fixture plumbing, that kind of stuff, they're going to get paid more. And it's because the customer is willing to pay more because it's an emergency. So don't be scared that if you put in that you're going to be charging more than your competitors, that automatically that looks bad. Just explain why you're going to be able to get by with it. And that'll help, once again, that'll help that reviewer. It might even make your case even look stronger. primary competitive advantage. So this goes into when you look at yourself versus your competitors, once again, what is the primary competitive advantage for your product or your approach versus your competition? So let's say you're selling locally and your main competitor is Amazon. Hey, that's a formidable competitor. That is a, they're going to have good prices, they're going to have good product selection, those kind of things. But maybe your advantage is that you are local and that things are in stock. And so you're gonna say, hey, we've got it right here. You can look and feel, you can pick it up today, those kind of things. Or if you do a service or something, maybe you're the only provider of that service in 50 miles or 30 miles or something like that. Put those kind of things down, and that highlights why you're going to be able to attract people to your product or service offering versus those competitors, because you are doing something that they can't do or they're not as good at doing it. So highlight that. That's taken a, that's kind of highlighting how you're strong. The next section is your target customer profile. So target customer profile is, hey, who do you think is going to buy your product? So when you think about when you're writing up an advertising, an ad, or you're sending information to people, or you're putting a billboard out, or whatever you might be doing, you have to think about who is that customer? What are the characteristics around them? What do they potentially care about? And you're going to want to represent that in any of your messaging that you do to them. So this is important here from a target customer profile as to who they are. So purchaser category, there's 3 bullets here that we kind of go into. You can fill out each of these if you have those defined, as long as you have at least one of them kind of defined. You want at least one of them defined. If you got all 3, that's great. But you really should challenge yourself to try to flesh that out a little bit to figure out what exactly you're doing. So purchaser category, are you selling to individuals or are you selling to businesses? You could be selling to the government. If you're selling to the government, then you have to do some things to get into some of the government contracting. So that kind of helps highlight some paths you have to do if you're just starting out. Or you're going to be selling to wholesale distributors or something like that. That impacts your margins that you're going to be doing and what your markups on your product are. Demographics. So is there specific age groups that you're targeting? Maybe you're targeting newborn type activity. Maybe you're targeting senior citizens. Is there an age group specific? Maybe you're targeting teens, those kind of things. Family status. Maybe you're targeting families versus you're targeting singles, married, whatever, race, ethnicity. If there's specific characteristics or products that make sense, that might be a demographic slice that you highlight. Gender, is it something that's going to be more toward a female versus a male or whatever? Income or education, those kind of things. So anything that you specifically highlighted as, I think these folks are going to be more interested in what I have to offer, then that's what you kind of highlight. Psychographics. This is more about what people want to be. So, so are they trendy? Do they want to have the latest and greatest everything? Those are going to be kind of, those potentially could be some of your impulse sort of shoppers too. And they're potentially going to pay more. Conservative, are they conservative? Do you really have to kind of explain things? Don't be too flashy, that kind of stuff. Are they early adopters of technology? Are they careful with money? Are they interested in charitable causes? Those kind of things. So try to figure out what exactly kind of resonates with them and what they would be interested in. If you understand that about your customer, you're going to be a lot better off at trying to tailor your messages to them. And if you have a store, you're going to be better off about how to merchandise your store for them, and what kind of signage inside your store and pricing, that kind of stuff. And your SBDC folks can help you with there too. Just get initial thoughts down and that'll help the conversation. Another important thing is where your customers are primarily located. So this is all about geography. So are your customers all primarily in your hometown? Are they in the neighboring town also? Are they in the whole state, globally, whatever? Try to think about where the majority of them are. Theoretically, if you had a website, you could potentially have a customer from, Asia buy something from you. That doesn't necessarily mean your customers are in Asia. It just means that somebody found you on the internet. Think about where your customers are primarily located and where you primarily are focusing your effort on your marketing. So that's what you want to kind of look at. That'll zero you in on your competitors. That'll zero you in on how you should market, and it won't distract you with things that aren't relevant. Promotion. Where will you sell to the customers? Are you going to have a physical store? So a retail store, or are you going to sell through third parties, or are you going to have pop-up locations or festivals, events, those kind of things? Highlight all of those here. So if you're physically going to be selling to somebody somewhere, highlight that. If it's online, are you selling just on your company website? Or are you selling on third-party websites? Or are you selling on social media? Are you selling on Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff? List those things out. Sales reps. Are you selling via your own sales reps that are calling on customers? So if you're selling to businesses, those kind of things especially. Or do you have third-party sales reps? So if you have third-party sales reps, they might be selling other products and you're just one of the mix. And so highlight that. So that kind of gives an idea of who your customers are, excuse me, where they're located, and where they can find you. The next section, market size and the targeted area. This can be a real important part if where you're looking to establish a business that hasn't really been done before. Or it potentially looks like maybe there's too many competitors and you're trying to figure out if there's enough business to be had for you to survive. And that goes into that whole differentiation. Why would somebody buy from you versus your competitors? If everybody's kind of similar, market sizing is important to kind of understand. If you go by and everybody's similar and there's just people standing in line out the door at every one of the competitors, that's probably a sign that you could probably open and be okay. If there's competitors that are going out of business, there used to be 20 and now there's only 5, and one of them's got a going out of business sign in the door front, and you're the exact same way, that's probably a danger sign. But another way that you can kind of identify market sizing is, once again, when you look at that industry report that the SBDC can help you with, if you look at the total U.S. size of the industry, and then you look at that geographic area that you're talking about for the customers. So let's say that you have an industry market that's $1 billion, and that industry is made up of 5 different products. Your product resonates with one of those 5. And it represents, just coincidentally, easy math, it represents 20% of the total industry. So if you take 20% times 1 billion, that'd give you $200 million for your relevant size for your business. If you're looking at Kansas and you look at the population of Kansas and you said, well, Kansas represents about 1% of the total US market, and I'm only going to be selling in Kansas. And so my $200 million industry, now I multiply it by 1%. So I multiply that by 0.01, and I come up with, now my relevant market size for Kansas for my product is $2 million. So now I look at that $2 million and I go, okay, that's the total market potential. How many other competitors do I have to share that with? So if it's 2 million and there's only one other competitor, then, and if you think that you and that other competitor are roughly equal, you look at that 2 million and you go, well, there's 2 of us, we'll take 2 million divided by 2. My fair share is $1 million. if I do things right and I'm at least competitive with my other competitor. If you're better than the other competitor, over time you should potentially get more than that. If you're worse, you'll get less than that. But if you're the exact same, you're roughly going to share that. Now, this is where number of competitors comes into play. If you're sharing that instead of with one other, you're sharing it with 9 others, so that there's 10 total competitors, you plus 9 others. You take that $1 million that's available to you and divide it by 10, and you get $100,000 type deal. So, so when you go through market sizing, that's a way that you can do it. If you're in an industry that is pretty well known and it's kind of stable, things like that, this isn't as critical. If it's an area that is kind of a niche area, or maybe it's a premium product and you're not so much in a high income area, market sizing might be handy for you. Or it's a niche that you don't ever see in rural areas, but you're going to be located in a rural area. It's not impossible. You could get people to travel, but market sizing will really kind of help to highlight if you're really up against a tough hurdle. And once again, we're here to help you make as most powerful pitch as possible to help your businesses succeed. But one of the other things that we also are okay with is if through this process, if we highlight that this isn't a good idea to sink your money into, and that you either need to significantly change your business model or look for a different geographic area to locate it in. We view that as a success too, because it is no good for somebody to put their life savings into a business and then watch it go away, and that's a real risk. And so by going through these things, the goal is to minimize those risks and to make you as powerful as possible as a business owner, and to make your business as successful as possible. So moving right along, kind of a repeat of what we asked you in the competitor side, same thing. Customers will primarily buy from us because, once again, what is that main reason they're going to buy from you? It could be price. It could be availability. It could be speed of delivery. That's like if you're going up against, an Amazon or something like that. It could be product quality. You could be going up against somebody that, they're really, really cheap, but the stuff breaks. And there is a segment of population that's like, I don't want it to break all the time. And so if you have a high product quality that is significantly better, you could potentially lean on that as your reason that you're better. It could be favorable financing terms. You could be higher priced than your competitor. This is a piece right here that people overlook a lot. Favorable financing terms. You could be higher priced by 20% for the product. But if your competitor doesn't offer financing terms and you do, your customer who is looking for a price deal could potentially come to you because of your favorable financing terms. They might not be able to find financing somewhere else. And so they're not able to come up with a lump sum payment, especially if it's a business type, if you're selling to businesses. They might not be able to come up with the total amount. And so if you allow them sort of installment payments, those kind of things, you see it every day where you see some of the furniture stores that they're selling on a weekly basis. Hey, it's only $24 a month or $24 a week. Now, at the end of the day, the people are going to pay 3 times more than what if they just went and bought it from the other store, their competitor. But that company has made a strategic decision to compete on favorable financing terms, and they have a segment of customers that are gonna do that. There's also other risk in that, so you have to take that in consideration. But favorable financing terms is a way that that people can differentiate themselves with customers. Going along there, from a marketing perspective, so main marketing message, your tagline to your customers. So at this point, you've kind of talked about how your competitors, who your competitors are, what your strengths and weaknesses are against them, what you think is your unique competitive advantage, why you think people are going to buy from you. And so now think about, okay, if I had to sit down and write an ad and say why I'm good, which you will have to do. You'll have to say this in your flyers or on your signage or in your website or wherever. You need to start to think about, okay, what exactly is my main point that I want to stress? So here we have some examples. So if you're a manufacturer and let's say you're competing against some cheap imports and you think that your product quality is better, well, you really need to state that. So you say made in USA quality that will last. So that kind of helps to say, well, this one's cheaper, but then somebody comes back and say, yeah, but this is good quality and it's gonna last. So that helps kind of overcome some of those weaknesses that you probably highlighted earlier. Example for a new company with zero reputation with targeted customers. This can be in person as well as even online. If you're a brand new Amazon seller and you have zero reviews, people are going to be suspect as to whether or not you're legit or not. If you're in a store, if you're selling to businesses or something like that, excuse me, or really any environment, money back guarantee is always a good one to overcome if you're a brand new entrant to a category. If you're a brand new entrant and there's a lot of fear associated with, well, can this person do this or whatever? If you put a money back guarantee in, it helps to alleviate that fear because they're fearing that I'm going to spend money and this person's not going to be able to do what they say they're going to do. So by putting the money back guarantee, that helps kind of alleviate that. If you're a restaurant with an award-winning chef or a best new restaurant or whatever, let's say you're an award-winning chef and you decide to open your own restaurant. Your own restaurant has no reviews, but you were an award-winning chef. So, hey, let's go ahead and make sure that you stress that. So you can kind of do those kind of things. We used the example earlier about if you're primarily competing against online out-of-town sellers, really stress this: local, fast, convenient, come get it today. That is your big differentiator. So you need to stress it because that is when somebody's like, oh, I've got to wait till next Tuesday. Then they get recall on, oh, well, I can go down there and get it today. So you really want to make sure that you don't take it for granted that, well, everybody knows I'm here. Everybody knows they can get it today. No, you've got to say it. In marketing, you have to say it. You have to hit people over the head with what you're trying to say. If you're primarily selling to socially driven millennial younger customers or whoever, and you think that's going to be a big deal for your selling proposition, you need to highlight it once again. Don't just assume they already know because you've got it buried somewhere in your website statement that on page 14 or whatever that you give portion of your proceeds somewhere. Stick it out there loud and proud and say a portion of every sale is donated to whatever your cause is. Shop with us and make a difference. Hey, that's an ego stroke. Ego strokes can play well with customers. Typically, to get somebody to pull the trigger on something from a marketing perspective, you want to hit their ego, fear, or greed. And so if you have a message that is addressing one of those three, you're usually in pretty good shape. Exit plan. One of the things is, okay, what do you plan to do when it's all over? What is your exit plan for the business? Even if you're just starting it up, are you looking to flip this? Maybe you see an opportunity and you're like, you know what, I've got a good 5-year horizon. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna sell it after 5 years, or I'm gonna build it up and I'm gonna hand it over to my children or whatever. If you highlight that, it'll kind of help us kind of understand a little bit better some approaches and some tips and things that we might suggest to you depending upon what you're trying to accomplish and for what kind of a time horizon you're on. The next section of your business plan starts to get into the financial projection sort of side. This first part is really about, and your business plan and your financial projections really kind of work hand in hand. So you're going to go through your business plan, make a first draft iteration type deal. Then you're going to go do your financial projections based upon what your business plan says you're going to do. Then you're going to get new numbers through those financial projections. You're going to bring them back and you're going to update this area. Some of the stuff you're already going to know. Some of the stuff you're not going to know until you do your financial projections. Working capital, how much inventory you need, that kind of stuff to start out with. Timing of when your revenues are coming in versus your expenses, those kind of things. A lot of that's going to be found out in your financial projections. Now, if you're buying a building, that's pretty easy. You know what that's going to be right off the bat. You don't need to do financial projections to know how much the building's going to cost. You're not going to need to do them to know how much your remodeling is going to cost. So you can put some of these things down now. You don't have to list every single board that you buy. What you really want to do is make sure that you kind of group your categories. So list your main items. So if there's an item that represents 10% of your total spend, if you need to raise $300,000. And if you have one category that says miscellaneous for 150,000, no one's going to buy that. That's 50% of what you're saying that you need to raise. So you need to break that out. Your miscellaneous categories can't really be lumps more than about 10% or so. So you need to break out what it is that money is going for. So that's why you list out item 1, item 2, item 3. So whether or not it's new building purchase, X amount of dollars, remodel of that building, X amount of dollars. Don't just put building and remodel of X amount. Those are kind of two distinct things. So list them out separately. If you have to buy furnishings, maybe you have some significant signage that you have to do on the front of it or something. Maybe there's a lot of training that you have to do for employees or something, or there's licenses or some upfront type things. List those kind of things out if they're significant. Like I say, if things like $50, $100, don't list that. You can lump those into things. Also in here on the expense breakdown, if you've paid for anything for the business, maybe you already own the building, take credit for it. List out all the things that you have already prepaid. So put out and what the value of that is. Be reasonable. If you've got a building and you bought it 10 years ago and it's worth $100,000, don't say that it's worth $500,000 to try to juice up what your owner equity piece into the project is. Because eventually it's going to get evaluated. And if you claim 500 and it comes back with the appraisal at 100,000, your banker's going to think you're lying about everything. So be realistic and truthful on your stuff, because whatever you put down here will eventually get found out. So make sure that you're in a zone of reasonableness. It will bite you if you don't. And then list out what those things are that you have already prepaid. Maybe you've got equipment already. Maybe you've got some company vehicles that you're going to have to leverage. Have that stuff listed out. You should get credit for that. That's cost for the business that you've already provided. Then you move down to sources of funds. So sources of funds, this is where it kind of gets into, okay, what's the owner contributed? So this is where some of those prepaid expenses from right above, where we listed them out. You know, if you already own the equipment or tools or building or vehicles or whatever, you've already got that. If it was your own personal college education, nobody cares about that. That doesn't count. It has to be actual tangible sort of things. They'll care about it as to whether or not you seem like you have knowledge in the space, but they're not gonna pay for things like that. So sources of funds, owner contribution. So anytime you go to get a lender, most always are going to be looking for at least about a 10%. Typically, you're going to be in that 10 to 20% type range. A lot of times, if it's strong financials, things like that, you can get by with like 10%. But most all your lenders are going to want to see some skin in the game. They want to make sure that you're invested in this, that you can't just walk away without feeling any pain. So that's where this goes into play. So you list out what your contribution is going to be. Already secured maybe some grants or individual investors or maybe other loans. Another thing with when you go to look for loans, you don't just have to get one lender. Lenders will participate together. You can have multiple, you can have grants, lenders, you can have multiple sort of things. And there's different groups that that can help, nonprofit organizations that can help do some lending also that a lot of people aren't aware of. Your Kansas SBDC advisor is aware of all of those and can really help you. So make sure you ask them about that. That's one area that the SBDC is probably one of your better resources in the entire state, if not the best resource in the state for understanding what's going on in your local area from a lending perspective, not just from traditional banks, but also all these nonprofit gap financing sort of organizations that loan out on terms like banks, sometimes even more favorably than banks. But they're out there. They're trying to help new entrepreneurs and business owners. So make sure you ask us about that. You never know what you're going to find out. So if you have some of those, you list those out. So, hey, you've listed out how much you're going to put in. You've listed out how much what you've already got secured. So what that leaves is, okay, up here, I said I needed to grab, $300,000 or whatever. Down here, I said I put in 100,000. I got another grant for 50,000, or I got a loan for 50,000 from my parents or whatever. And now I need to raise another 150 grand or whatever. So you put in this total remaining to raise. So this highlights, this is how much I'm short for my project. And this is how I think I'm going to get it. So you put down what you've already got in hand, and then you put down what you need to raise. So for what you need to raise, you list that out and you say, hey, I think I'm going to go get this from crowdfunding, or I'm going to go get this from family and friends, and then I still need this amount from a bank loan. So, so you list that out. Then this last point on the financial side is the 3-year revenue and expense projections. Banks are going to want to see this, and the Kansas SBDC will help you with this. And so what that is, the revenue and expense projections, they want to look at 3-year of monthly financial projections to kind of see. Most people, when they first start out with a new business, they have to go through the first year to kind of ramp up to the sales. To kind of give you an example, you think about your business from an awareness perspective. Do people know who you are? Can they find you easily? Those kind of things. And when you think about like a Walmart or a Target, you think about those places and everybody knows who they are. Everybody's shopped there. Everybody's been inside of one. They typically are always located in a very easy to find location that people are aware of. So you think of those kind of big places that everybody knows where they are. They've already shopped, everything like that. When they open a new store, it takes them 12 months to ramp up to the monthly sales levels that a normal Walmart or a normal Target is at. It takes them 12 months to ramp up. So how long do you think it's going to take you to ramp up? It's going to take you something similar. So when you open your doors, if you're a restaurant, you could potentially get a big, huge spike right off the bat. Then you could get a little bit of a lull. But traditionally, with a new business, you're going to have a little bit of a lull. Not so much a lull, but you're going to have a ramp. You're going to have a ramp. You're not going to start out at the run rate that you're going to be selling at in your second year, in your first year, if you're going to be successful and continue to grow. Your first year, you're going to start out and you're going to slowly grow, and then by the end of the 12 months, you're going to be ramped up. So the issue is in your financial projections, a lot of your expenses don't ramp up. Variable expenses will ramp up, but cost for your building, utilities, those kind of things, those are going to be already ramped up from day one. So a lot of times your expenses are at a level that have gotten to a level higher than what your revenues are at the very beginning. So financial projections and why banks require these is they like to look at the monthly numbers to see, hey, are you accounted for? Do you have enough reserves? That's that working capital that we mentioned earlier. Do you have enough reserves available to cover you through the initial launch of your business, or the new expansion of your business, or something like that, where you're looking for ramp up from sales? A lot of times, if you go out to a Craigslist or a Facebook buy sell type thing, if you look for equipment, if you look for restaurant equipment, there are ads out there all over the place for restaurant equipment. And if you look at the description, it'll always say only use 6 months, 6 months old, 6 months old. So there's a lot of 6-month-old restaurant equipment out there for sale. Why do you think they only used it for 6 months? It's because they didn't understand their ramp. So they went out and they were able to afford their equipment, but they didn't understand that it was going to take them 12 months to ramp up. So they had bills, they had a little bit of some savings set up, and they ran out of money come 6 months. 6 months, they couldn't pay their bills, they had to shut their doors. Now they're selling their equipment. So if you're buying restaurant equipment, go out and take a look at that, because you can find some pretty good equipment that's only 6 months old and save you some money. But that's the importance of financial projections. It helps you highlight that ramp. Can't stress that enough. A lot of people don't fully appreciate that fact, and those are the folks that are selling their equipment at 6 months. So really pay attention to the financial projections, understand it, work with your SBDC advisor, get those laid out. And that's why the banks are so interested in understanding what your financial projections look like, because they know that if they're not done well, that somebody could get in trouble with their business and it could go under. And nobody wants to see that. Your banker doesn't want you to go under. Your community doesn't want you to go under. You certainly don't want you to go under. So, just kind of lay these things out in advance so that you can ask your bank for the necessary amount of money to get you through those soft spots in that first year. Your bank understands that there's soft spots in the first year. So here's the thing, when you go in and ask for your loan, you want to make sure that you're asking for enough to get you through those soft points in that ramp up, because everybody's optimistic when you first get your loan approval. Your banker's optimistic, you're optimistic, everybody's optimistic. If you don't ask for enough money and you go back to your banker after 3 months and you say, ooh, hey, I'm looking ahead and it looks like I'm going to run out of some money, I need another loan. All of a sudden, your banker is not optimistic anymore. Now, all of a sudden, your banker is fearful. Your banker is worried that your loan is about to go under, and they are trying to figure out how they can liquidate the project so that they can get some of their funding back out. And they for sure are going to be leery about giving you more money. Now, rewind 3 months when you're getting that loan approval and everybody was optimistic. If you went in and you asked for about 10% more and your financial projections showed that you needed that 10% more, and they're most likely going to give it to you then. But if you ask for 10% more 3 months into the deal, they're most likely going to wash their hands, because they're going to be fearful that they're just throwing good money after bad. So pay attention to your financial projections. Don't just put numbers down. Actually understand it and make sure that you fully understand what your needs are. And you want to do that before you launch or before you expand your business, those kind of things, because you don't want to get caught and hung up. Your bank doesn't want to see it. Your community doesn't want to see it. We don't want to see it. You certainly don't want to see it, your employees, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's my little soapbox there. This next page is a very important page. And it's about your team, both your employee team as well as your advisory team. And sometimes people look at this page and just think, what are they doing? Just asking for a resume? That's not what this is. Loosely, but not really. What this is to try to, once again, lessen some fear, reduce fear from the loan officer. So when you look at your leadership team, so you've got your management team, and so you'll list out who, you'll list out the owners, you'll list out your main sort of functional players, and you'll say what they're responsible for. So you could say, oh, hey, they're the chief salesperson, they're the operations, whatever the function is. And then you put in what the relevant experience is. So it could be, hey, I've got a degree in that. Or maybe you don't have a degree, but you've worked in that field for 10 years. You put that in there, that you've worked in a similar function for 10 years doing that. The loan officer looks at that and goes, they're kind of experienced in the industry. Okay, that takes some risk off. All right, I feel better about that. They go down and look at your next person. And they go, okay, well, what's their relevant experience? Okay, okay. And then they look and they're like, doesn't look like anybody has any finance experience. Nobody on the management team has finance experience. Ooh, that could be a risk. Well, that's why you put in this advisory board and other key resources. So let's say you have somebody that's a CPA or accountant type deal, and they're doing your taxes. Maybe they're submitting all your financials, your sales taxes, those kind of things. List that person out, because what that does, that bank all of a sudden, if they're just looking at you and your other owner or the other lead employee you have, and they're like, ugh, they're kind of lacking in this area, and this is pretty important for that industry. Then they look down at your advisory board and they see that, oh, okay, well, they were weak on finance up here, but they've got an account, they've got a CPA here, so okay, we feel comfortable. They're going to keep them. They're going to keep them. Appropriate on their finances and keep them on track and make sure everything gets paid. Then if you've got anything, remember how in the elevator pitch we talked about if you have any rock star sort of family and friends, list those folks out. Even if it's, oh, my uncle ran his own business for 30 years. Hey, that's somebody that you could talk to about the trials of being a small business owner and what to do when staffing goes wrong or whatever. They look at that and they're like, okay, well, they've got somebody to turn to. You can also list out the Kansas SBDC. So here we have Kansas SBDC at Pittsburg State listed. There's 8 total regional centers across the state of Kansas. So you would list out your local SBDC office. Most all your lenders are going to be familiar with the SBDC. Put that down, and you can show that that we assisted you in preparing your initial business plan and financial projections. They'll see that and they'll say, okay, they feel a little bit more trust that you worked with an outside party to lay this out for you. One of the other things that you can do, the SBDC isn't just for startups. We work with existing businesses all throughout your life. No matter what you need, we can help you out at every stage. And if we can't help you with something, we can always get you in contact with the organization that can. So you can do periodic checkups with us, walk through your financials with us, talk about what you're seeing with your competitors, kind of say, I need to revisit my business plan. Hey, do you have any more industry updates? What's the industry summary or whatever? We can do all those things for you. So you can put us down for utilizing us for periodic plan checkups. That can be on a quarterly basis, semi-annual, annual, whatever. But put that down, and the bank's going to see that and go, okay, well, they're going to talk to the SBDC on a recurring basis. So the SBDC will probably be able to help them. Sometimes new business owners will feel overwhelmed, and they'll hide from what's going on, and which is the worst thing to do. And so if they just come and have somebody to talk to about it, we can try to help minimize the damage, try to, on the flip side, leverage the opportunities and try to help your business be as successful as possible. So by putting that down, that shows the lenders that you have another resource to help you. Then at the end of your business plan, you'll have attachments. So the 3-year financial projections that the SBDC will help you with, it'll be an Excel file that'll have the 3 years of monthly financial projections and everything that the banker wants to look at, plus good stuff for you to understand, and your SBDC advisor will walk you through to make sure you do. But there will be a 1-page kick out of that. That'll be a 1-page it'll be a 3-year summary. And it'll be 1 page, and that'll set on the back of this business plan. So you have this 5-page business plan, and then you'll take this 1-page 3-year summary that lists out the different revenue and expense categories, and for each of those years, and that'll be on the back. That'll allow the banker to get a quick snapshot of what your financials look like. Then when they want to go into greater detail, they'll pull up the Excel file and look at all the greater detail that they want to look at. But the attachment is that 1-page 3-year summary. Then when you do the Kansas SBDC industry research summary that I talked about earlier, to do your industry snapshot, there's also a page in that has financial benchmark stats. By having that in there, once again, it allows your banker to see that you understand some of the important financial metrics in your industry. and it'll help them kind of look and see how your projections look at that. And the fact that you have that will once again help them feel more comfortable that you've at least looked at that, thought about it, and knew enough to include it. If you're doing a restaurant, or even if you're doing a repair shop or whatever, if you have a menu, a spa, whatever, if you have a menu, go ahead and do that up. Go ahead and you're going to have to do it up anyway. So go ahead and do it up and have that as an attachment. If you have a menu, one, the process of doing it up, you may learn some things and you may tweak some things, and it may make you change some things in your financial projections. Maybe you look at it and you're like, ooh, I've got way too many things, or ooh, that's not very clear. I need to change the price. I need to break this out, whatever. But force yourself to kind of do up a menu. If you're going to have a menu in your business, go ahead and do it up now. You want to understand what you're doing. Then photos, diagrams. So maybe you got a loan and you're going to be building a new building. Hey, if you've got an architectural drawing of it, or if you've got CAD drawings of a product that you've got a patent on or whatever, include those photos. It makes it a little bit more tangible. The loan officer, once again, can look at that, and it makes it feel a little bit more real because they have these drawings of it. So even if it hasn't been created yet, they can actually see what it's going to look like, and it makes it feel a little bit more real for them. So that is the business plan template. And when you get done filling it all out, like I say, when you go through it, go back and re-listen to this video for the sections that you might have questions on. Go through and once you're done, if you want to contact us at that point, if you have additional questions, go ahead and or you can move on down to the next step, which is starting to kind of pull together some of your preliminary financial information that you'll need for projections. And that's listed in the, if you're going by the step-by-step process that we have on the Capital Access Center, that's step 3 of that 5-step process. So that starts in your financial projections. But at any time you have any questions, at the bottom of this template is this 800 number and the website. You can go on there and chat, and you just contact the Kansas SBDC and we will help you out. And then as you get to a point where you're getting closer and you've got your items filled out, we'll also pull in your local SBDC experts that'll have some additional knowledge locally, and some lender information as well. So throughout this process, the SBDC will be here for you. And even after this process, we'll still be here for you as well. And like I say, if you're ever wondering if we can help or not, save yourself from some frustration, just contact us, and we'll either be able to help you or we'll be able to get you in touch with the people who can help you. So just know that's what we're here for. We're here to help Kansas small businesses, and so so that's what you should use this for. So don't be bashful. Reach out to us. And with that, thank you.